You're standing in the grocery store parking lot, loading a 30-pack of plastic water bottles into your trunk. Again. Same as last week, same as the week before that, you just spent $9 on water. Water. The one thing that falls from the sky for free roughly 40 times a year if you live in most of the continental United States, and yet here you are handing over cash for it in a plastic bottle that's going to sit in a landfill for the next 450 years. And maybe you've thought about it, I should collect rainwater. And then you pictured some complicated setup with pumps and UV sterilizers and $1,000 filtration systems, and you put the thought away and went back to buying bottled water like everybody else. Here's what nobody tells you. Your great-grandparents didn't have that problem. Not because they had access to municipal treatment plants and bottling plants and delivery trucks. They had a barrel, some sand, some charcoal, and about 20 minutes of work. That's it. That's the whole secret. Today I'm going to walk you through building a rain barrel filtration system for under $20, $18 if you're not picky about where your sand comes from, using a technique that's been used on farms and homesteads for over 150 years and is still used today by relief organizations to bring clean water to entire villages that have nothing else. This isn't a gimmick. This is one of the most well-documented low-tech water purification methods in human history, and somewhere along the way, most of us just stopped using it. I want to show you why that happened, how the thing actually works, and exactly how to build one yourself this weekend. Let's talk numbers for a second, because numbers don't lie even when marketing does. The average American household spends somewhere between $200 and $400 a year on bottled water. If you're buying filtered water jugs from the store instead, you're still paying just slightly less painfully. Either way, you are paying indefinitely forever for something that used to cost nothing. And it's not just the sticker price. Think about the plastic. A huge percentage of single-use water bottles never get recycled. They end up in oceans, in rivers, in landfills, breaking down into microplastics that are now showing up in human blood, in placentas, in breast milk. There have been multiple independent studies over the last several years finding microplastic contamination in the very bottled water people are buying specifically because they think it's cleaner than tap water. Think about that for a second. You're paying a premium for a product that may be introducing the exact kind of contamination you were trying to avoid. Then there's the countertop filter pitchers, the ones with the brand name cartridges you have to replace every month for $20, $30 a pop. Convenient, sure. But you're renting clean water, you never actually own the solution. You're locked into a subscription for something that used to be a one-time skill you pass down to your kids. None of this is an accusation of some grand conspiracy. Companies aren't secretly plotting in a boardroom to keep you ignorant of sand filtration. It's simpler and, honestly, more insidious than that. It's just profitable to keep things complicated. It's profitable to sell you a $200 gravity filter system with proprietary cartridges when an $18 bucket setup does the same core job. Convenience got monetized, and the free version of that convenience, the version your ancestors knew by heart, got quietly left behind because nobody was selling it to you. The old techniques didn't disappear because they stopped working. They disappeared because nobody profits when you build it yourself out of a bucket and playground sand. So let's go back. Slow sand filtration is not new, not even a little bit. The first documented municipal slow sand filter was installed in Paisley, Scotland in 1804 by a guy named John Gibb, who filtered river water for his bleachery and started selling the surplus clean water to the public. By the 1850s, London was using slow sand filtration on the Thames after Dr. John Snow's cholera investigations proved that contaminated water, not bad air, which was the popular theory at the time, was what was making people sick. But long before European cities figured out the science behind it, homesteaders and rural farming communities across America were doing a version of this instinctively. Old agricultural extension bulletins from the late 1800s and early 1900s, the kind land-grant universities used to mail out to farm families, routinely included instructions for building a filter barrel using layered sand, gravel, and charcoal to clarify well water, cistern water, and rain runoff before use. It was standard farmstead knowledge, the same category of know-how as canning vegetables or curing meat. Amish and Old Order Mennonite communities never fully abandoned it. Off-grid families I've talked to who grew up in plain communities describe filter barrels sitting right next to the cistern as just part of the property, same as the woodpile. Nobody thought of it as some clever hack. It was just how you handled your water if you weren't hooked up to town lines. And here's the part that really gets me. This exact same layered sand and gravel design, essentially unchanged, is what humanitarian engineering organizations use today to bring clean water to communities in developing countries that don't have treatment infrastructure. It's called a biosand filter. It's been studied extensively, deployed in the tens of thousands, and it works on the same principle your great-grandfather's filter barrel worked on. We didn't improve on the concept, we just forgot we already had it. Here's where I want to slow down because I don't want you walking away thinking this is magic. It's not magic. It's mechanical and biological filtration, and understanding why it works is what's going to make you trust it enough to actually use it. There are three things happening inside that barrel, stacked in layers. Layer 1 is mechanical straining. As water moves down through fine sand, physically small particles, dirt, sediment, debris, the visible cloudiness you see in muddy runoff, get trapped in the tiny spaces between sand grains. This is the same principle as a coffee filter, just far more effective because the sand bed is deep and the particles have to travel through inches of material, not a thin paper sheet. Layer 2 is biological filtration, and this is the part almost nobody knows about. After a sand filter has been running for a couple of weeks, a thin biological layer forms on the top surface of the sand, literally a living film of beneficial microorganisms. This layer is sometimes called the Schmutzdecke, a German word that just means dirt layer. That living layer actually consumes and traps a significant portion of the bacteria and organic contaminants passing through it. It's the same underlying idea as a healthy compost pile or a functioning septic system. Beneficial organisms doing the cleanup work for you, for free, continuously, as long as you don't let the filter fully dry out and kill that biological layer. Layer 3 is adsorption, and that's where the charcoal comes in. Activated charcoal, and I mean activated, not just burnt wood, though we'll get to how to make your own, has an enormous internal surface area riddled with microscopic pores. 1 gram of activated charcoal can have a surface area of 500 to 1,500 square meters. Contaminants, chemicals, and organic compounds get chemically bound to that surface as water passes through, which is why charcoal-filtered water tastes and smells dramatically better than unfiltered water. This is the exact same chemistry used in industrial and municipal treatment, just scaled down to a bucket. Now, I want to be straight with you about something because I'm not in the business of getting you sick. This filter is exceptional at removing sediment, clarifying cloudy water, pulling out a lot of organic material, and neutralizing off-tastes and odors. It will dramatically reduce many types of bacteria over time, especially once that biological layer matures. What it does not reliably do on its own is guarantee the destruction of every possible pathogen, particularly viruses, which are small enough to occasionally slip through. That's not a flaw in the design, it's just physics. Even the old-timers who use filter barrels knew this. Rain and cistern water destined for drinking, especially for children or anyone with a compromised immune system, was typically boiled afterward or in later years, treated with a small amount of unscented household bleach or run through a secondary purification step. For washing, laundry, watering animals in gardens, cleaning, and general household use, this filter alone is more than enough, and honestly better than what most people are using now. For drinking water specifically, treat this filter as your clarification and pre-treatment stage, then finish the job with a boil or a proper disinfection step. That's not me hedging to cover myself. That's exactly how this method was traditionally used, and it's the difference between doing this right and doing it recklessly. All right, let's build it. Total cost lands around $18 if you're sourcing smart, and every material on this list is something you can find at a hardware store, a pet store, or in your own yard. What you need: a 5-gallon food-grade plastic bucket with a lid. You can often get these free from restaurant kitchens, which throw them out constantly after using them for pickles or frosting. If you're buying new, expect about $5. A second 5-gallon bucket, same specs, which will sit underneath and catch your filtered water. If you're repurposing the rain barrel itself as your reservoir, you can skip this one. Coarse gravel, about a gallon's worth. Pea gravel from a hardware store runs $2 to $3 for a small bag. more than enough. Coarse sand, roughly 2 gallons. Not beach sand, not play sand with additives, but coarse washed construction sand, sometimes labeled masonry sand. A bag runs around $5. Fine sand, about 1 gallon, sometimes labeled filter sand or pool filter sand, which is more tightly graded. If you can't find it separately, sifting your coarse sand through a window screen to separate finer particles works in a pinch. Activated charcoal, roughly 2 cups. You can buy activated carbon at pet stores in the aquarium filtration aisle for around $4 a bag, or you can make your own by burning hardwood, oak, maple, ash, down to coals in a low-oxygen fire, then crushing it once cooled. Homemade charcoal isn't technically activated in the industrial sense, but it still performs meaningful adsorption and is what homesteaders used for generations before commercial activated carbon existed. A piece of clean cotton cloth or a coffee filter to cap the outflow, a drill or a nail and hammer to put holes in your bucket. That's the full list. Now here's how it goes together. Start with your top bucket. This is your filter chamber. Near the bottom, put several small holes, maybe a 1/4 inch across, spaced in a rough circle a couple inches up from the base. This isn't where water exits the bottom entirely. It's a diffuser zone that keeps your outflow from clogging directly and helps water disperse evenly as it exits into the lower bucket. Some builders prefer a single center hole with a short length of PVC pipe inserted, capped with fine mesh, running from the bottom of the filter chamber down through to the collection bucket. That design gives you more control and is worth doing if you have an extra 10 minutes and a scrap of pipe lying around. Cover that bottom section, holes and all, with your cloth or coffee filter, held in place with a rubber band or simply weighted down by the first layer of material. This stops your sand from washing straight out through the holes. Now you're layering, bottom to top, and the order matters. First goes about 2 inches of coarse gravel. This is your drainage base, and it keeps the finer layers above it from clogging up right against the outflow. On top of that, another 2 to 3 inches of your fine sand. This is doing the bulk of your mechanical filtration and is where that beneficial biological layer will eventually establish itself. Next comes your activated charcoal layer, about 2 inches deep, spread evenly. This is your adsorption stage, pulling chemicals, odors, and organic compounds out of the water. On top of the charcoal, another layer of fine sand about 2 inches, which helps hold the charcoal in place and adds a second pass of mechanical filtration. Finally, cap it off with 2 to 3 inches of your coarse sand or gravel on the very top. This top layer protects the finer material underneath from being disturbed every time you pour water in, and it's also where your biological schmutzdecke layer will eventually form once the filter has been in regular use. Before you use it for anything, run several gallons of plain water through it first. This rinses out fine dust and sediment from the sand and charcoal that would otherwise just cloud your first few filtered batches. Don't judge the filter on its very first run. Expect the first couple of gallons to come out slightly cloudy or gray as everything settles and rinses clean. Set your filled filter bucket on top of your collection bucket or directly over your reservoir so the outflow drips or drains straight down into clean storage. Pour your collected rainwater, ideally already screened through a simple mesh or cloth, over your rain barrel's inlet to keep out leaves and debris, slowly into the top of the filter. Let gravity do the rest. Depending on your layer thickness and material grain size, you're looking at anywhere from a slow drip to a steady trickle, filtering somewhere in the range of 1 to 3 gallons per hour once the system is running normally. One thing that trips people up: don't let the filter dry out completely between uses if you can help it, especially once that biological layer starts developing over the first couple of weeks of regular use. A filter that's allowed to fully dry out kills off that beneficial layer, and you basically start back at square one, mechanically speaking, until it reestablishes. If you're only using it occasionally, keep a couple inches of standing water sitting on top of the sand between uses rather than letting the whole system drain bone dry. And again, for drinking water specifically, run your filtered output through a rolling boil for at least 1 minute, or use a proper disinfection method before you drink it. For everything else, dishes, laundry, garden irrigation, livestock, cleaning, the filtered water straight out of the barrel is ready to go. Once your filter's been running a couple of weeks and that biological layer has matured, the difference is honestly kind of shocking the first time you see it. Water that goes in the color of weak tea, full of visible sediment, comes out the other side looking like something you'd buy in a glass bottle labeled artesian for $6. The smell changes too. That flat, mineral, sometimes faintly metallic smell of raw rainwater or cistern water gets replaced by something close to nothing at all, which, when it comes to water, is exactly what you want. Here's the thing I keep coming back to. This isn't a trick, it's not a hack. It's just knowledge that used to be common and stopped being common because nobody had a reason to keep teaching it once the tap water and the bottled water and the subscription filter cartridges showed up and made it easy to stop thinking about where your water comes from. You don't need a permit to build this. You don't need a technician to install it. You don't need to keep paying somebody every 30 days to keep it working. You need a bucket, some sand, some charcoal, and about 20 minutes, and then you have a system that will keep working season after season for basically the cost of occasionally replacing the top layer of sand when it gets too clogged to drain properly, which for most households is maybe once or twice a year. This is the kind of thing that used to just get handed down, father to son, mother to daughter, neighbor to neighbor. It's not complicated. It was never complicated. It just got left behind. Build it this weekend. Set it up under your downspout, run your rain barrel water through it, and see the difference for yourself. And if you're going to drink it, boil it first. That's not me being cautious for no reason. That's just how it's always been done right. That's the whole secret. Water that falls from the sky for free, cleaned by a technique that's been sitting in old farm journals and Amish barnyards this whole time, waiting for somebody to remember it. You just did.